Hey guys, this is Josh Cora over here at Mountaintop Motors. I'm the owner here. I work on a lot of four-wheelers and vehicles. I work on everything from tractors to small go-karts. So if it's got an engine, I work on it. Today I'll be attempting to do some how-to videos for you guys. Today we're working on this 2013 Nissan Armada. We're going to be doing this rear wheel bearing. You can hear it. When you lift it up, you have play in it. Okay, so I haven't done one of these before, on this specific vehicle at least. So first we're going to go ahead and take off this caliper here. There's two 10mm bolts back right here and here. I've already got them loosened off just so we can get this done quick. Push on this tab here, pry that off there. Now I'm going to leave my rotor here on until I loosen off my bolts there on my CV joint up on the diff. So I'll grab a flashlight and show you guys where those bolts are. There's 6 of them up in there. And what you want to do is loosen 2 of them at a time. That's the easiest way to do it. Put your e-brake on, your emergency brake inside the vehicle. Once that's on, you can get a ratchet there and a socket on those bolts and loosen them off. They're 17mm bolts. And loosen 2 of them, go turn off your emergency brake, and you can spin this again so that 2 more are showing on the bottom. Go ahead and take off those 2, do it again. There's 6 total. Once you get those 6 loosened, you can take the emergency brake off, and you should be able to take those off with just a normal ratchet. So I've got a deep socket on there and an extension so that it doesn't get in the way of that CV joint. And I've got a swivel head ratchet here. It's not necessary, you can use whatever you want. But you will be up underneath there, so you want to make sure your vehicle's supported really well on jack stands. Don't just jack it up with a jack. We'll get a light on there and show you what we're looking at. So you can see that bolt there right in front of that boot. Loosen all 6 of those off and that CV joint should come out of there. And right here you're going to want to go ahead and take off this cotter pin. Keep track of it. Take off that little coupling there. It's a 32mm on this one. Again, you want to do this part with e-brake on. Get on here with your big breaker bar. And you should be able to loosen it. Once it's a little bit loose, it's pretty easy. Take this nut all the way off of here. Okay, I'm going to go turn off the emergency brake so we can pull off this rotor and go from there. Alright, now that I got that emergency brake off, I'm going to roll underneath and I'm going to take those bolts off the CV joint. So it shouldn't matter on this one, but it's a good habit to get into if you're going to work on a lot of your own stuff. I'm just going to take my silver Sharpie and I'm going to draw a line down there so I know how it goes. I want to put it back on the way I took it off. Now you can just pull back on this joint, pull it down to the ground. Once you've got it off of there, you can reach through on the back side and pull. I take my rubber mallet and just tap it a couple of times. Just don't tap it with the metal hammer. You can ruin those threads and then it'll not go back on your nut. The back side in here, there are 4 bolts. You can see them right here, and here, and there, and right there. You're going to want to take all 4 of those off, and then your hub should come right off of there. They're 15mm on mine. So we're loosening off these bolts on the back here. And at this point you can go ahead and take off your rotor. You've got your emergency brake off, so it'll slide right off there. Here's your emergency brake pads. So if you ever notice your emergency brakes not working anymore, your pads could just be worn out. That's how you do that. Okay, so now I'm making a note to myself that I've got Loctite on those. I'm going to go ahead and re-Loctite on the new ones when I put them back in. I just moved that CV axle back a little bit further so I could get my ratchet in here a little easier. Some of these are a little rusty. I'm going to go ahead and put some PB Blaster on there real quick. You could use WD-40 if you have some of that. But I use this PB Blaster. It works really well. So the whole reason we're doing this is vehicle came in for new shocks. Go ahead and put those on. And when I had it up in the air, I always check the wheel bearings, check the bushings, check everything out for the customer. And notice quite a bit of play in this side. So we're replacing this one. When it comes to bearings, if I'm going to do one side, I normally suggest to the customer we do both. So I've got all four of those out. Now, the new hub that I got came with new studs and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on this, see if we can break that loose there. Just make sure not to hit your brake pads. Don't mess any of this stuff up here. But you are replacing this, so you can go ahead and hit on it anywhere you want. You can hear that bearing in there. And this is why we've got play in here right now. That's why we're replacing it. Tapped on it a few more times. Now it's kind of loose in here. Now, at this point, once you know it's loose, there's a wire that comes out the back side of it. And that needs to be unplugged. It's this wire here. Okay, so it's hooked into that bracket there. It's hooked into this bracket here. Got this plastic clip on it there, hooked into a bracket here, up here, and finally up here is where it is actually connected to the wiring harness. So we're going to go ahead and unplug all of that. So I've got this wiring harness off. You can see how long it is there. Now we're going to go ahead and pull this off. You want to note where that wire goes through. Okay. Okay, so now this hub is off. So here's my new hub. See, wire harness is still on there. I'm sure you probably can buy this hub without the wiring harness. So before you take it all the way off back here, make sure you bought the version that either has it off or on, so you know what you need to do. Because you can just take out this bolt right here and pull that wire harness out. Okay, everything matches up there, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on. You can hear that bearing. And this new harness has all new clips and everything on it. Makes it nice and simple. I just lightly tapped on it to set it in place. Now I looked behind it. I'm watching to make sure I have the bolt holes all lined up where they need to be. Making sure my wiring harness is where it needs to be. All those things are very important at this point to make sure you have them correct. So I'm going to start by putting some Loctite on those bolts. Putting a little bit of blue Loctite on that. And I'll start to put it in. I want to go through and make sure it's lined up nice and straight. Alright, at this point I've got them all hand tight. So I'm going to start snugging them up. I'm going to do it in 3 steps, going in a crisscross pattern. So I'm going to start with this upper side, and then I'm going to go down to this lower side on this far corner over here. The reason I do that is because it needs to fit in there correctly. And if you just tighten up one side, you might put it on just slightly crooked, and that'll just cause your bearing to wear. So I'm going to start up here and just start going until it starts moving in. And you can watch the gap behind this plate here start to go away. And that's how you know you're moving. Now I'm on the bottom across the corner. Okay. Now I've got that side snugging up. Now I'm going to move to this bottom side on this side of the vehicle. And I'm just going to probably approximately 5 foot-pounds or so, just to get them kind of snug on there. Make sure it's lined up, then I'm going to make sure it spins properly. Okay, now I'm back up to the first one I started with, and it's loose again. Okay, so those are just snugged on there, not tight. I'm going to look up the torque specs. Got this all tightened up. And I put this wiring harness back in all the slots where it needs to be. And now I'm going to go ahead and put that CV axle back through there and bolt it up. Okay, so I got it through here. I don't have it pulled all the way. So what I'm going to do is take this socket and this nut. I'm going to thread it on here just to pull that axle all the way in there. Kind of give it pressure from the back and tighten it here. Again, I'm not tightening it right now. I'm just pulling it into place. So right there, I felt it bottom out. I'm going to lean back under here. I'm going to find my marking so that I can put it back on the same way it came off. And then what I'm going to do is just start these bolts. So this is another part here. You're going to want to get the torque specs on these bolts. It's very important to have those torque specs. You don't want it falling apart on you while you're driving down the road. If one of these axles falls off, it's going to cause some damage to a lot of other parts. So tighten them on. Use the exact torque specs and tightening sequences that they have in your service manual. I have all 6 of those in there hand tight. So now we're going to go ahead and clean off this rotor. It's been on the ground, so it's got dirt on it. I've touched it, so it's got my oils from my hands. We're just going to spray some brake cleaner on there and wipe it off with a new clean rag. I'm going to do this back side, and I'm going to do the inside where those emergency brake pads go on. You can see how much dirt was in there where that e-brake goes. Make sure these brake pads are on here correctly. If they're not, this rotor is not going to go on very easily. So I'm not going to touch that spot I just cleaned. Okay, now that's on there. Then we can clean this outside. And don't forget, we haven't torqued on this bolt here either. It's just loosely there. So, clean this off here. Take our caliper, and it lines up there on the bottom. And those mounting holes where your bolts go through, they kind of get caught up on there. So just pull them back and it slides right in there. Now it won't come off. Now we're going to take our bolts, put them in there, tighten it back on, tighten on our bolt here, our nut. We'll put back on our cover, put back through our cotter pin, bend it over, and that'll be done. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked the video. If there's anything I can do that'll make it better or more clear or anything like that, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'll try to do videos like this on more things. Everything from engine rebuilds to just basic replacing suspension and brakes and oil changes. So anything you guys want to see, leave it in the comments. Thank you.